Today I will send it, Sai. Actually, I have not sent it yet. Today I will
Okay.
send. Yeah. Tomorrow we will do the installation.
Maybe we'll do on Saturday.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. So anyone has any questions from yesterday's class? No questions? Or you don't want to speak?
No question.
No questions.
Okay, great. So what we discussed yesterday? So we discussed the basics of shell scripting yesterday. So in the shell scripting, so discussed how to execute a shell script, right? And command line arguments, and how to retrieve each command line argument that we passed into the script, right? And variable assignment, and how to read input from the console. And even we discussed the return code. So whether how to check whether the previous command executed successfully or not, right? So today as a continuation, right? So we'll discuss the control statements. So basically they are if else conditions, for loops, while loops, right? So that we discussed. And if the time permits, we'll discuss the functions. Okay. So before we start, so again, I'm asking, so any questions from yesterday's class? Okay, so let's start then. Let me share my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So we will talk about control statements. So we'll talk if. So this comes with if, else, and elif. Okay. And then we'll talk about loops. So basically, when it comes to loops, we'll be having either for loop or while loop. And then we'll talk about functions. Okay. And if time permits again, so we'll discuss case statements, how to use case. It's like alternate to using if, but it extended features are there in this one. And always remember, so everything is case sensitive and all must be in a lowercase. All Unix commands will be always in a lowercase, right? We already discussed this. Okay, so why do we say these are control statements? Right? So whenever we are executing something on the script or in the program, and if you wanted to check some condition or you wanted to control how many arguments or how many parameters or how many items that you are trying to process, so we use these statements. If else it is used to check the conditions. So let's say, for example, I wanted to delete a file, right? So to delete a file, first I should check the file exists or not. Then only I can go and delete it, right? So let's say if it is in Windows, we can just open the folder and see if the file is there or not. But in Linux, right, it's not that easy. We don't have a GUI. So that's the reason we'll check if the file exists and then we go and delete. That is an example. Okay. And for loop, so mostly the loops, right? So we use them to process the files. I'll tell you an example. Let's say I have like 10 to 15 files and I would like to see or I would like to extract when there is a match or you don't know. So what are the file names, right? So on the fly, you need to generate the list of matches and you need to get that list and push it to another folder for processing, right? So usually, right, we can do that with a find or a grep or something, but this loop, right, it will go and check each file, okay, and that gives us a result. And within that result, you can process each file. But grep and find, they only help us to identify the file, but to process it, that we cannot do with that. So loop is such an example. So whenever you give something and iterate through everything, so we can use loop, this for loop. Basically, while loop and for loop mostly similar, but while loop, right? So whenever there is a condition that is true, the loop will be continuing execution. Okay, that is the difference. So for loop and while loop, right? The difference is for loop, it will iterate through the items that given as an input. Let's say I given 100 files, right? So when I say for I in files, I do this one. So it will pick every one file each at a time, and it will execute the statements that were given in the loop of the body of the loop. Okay. But in while, right? So I'll say while 1 less than or I less than 10. So until that command succeeds, so it will execute the body of that while loop. This is the difference. So theoretically, we can explain this while and for loop that way. Any questions on this? Guys?
No question.
Okay. So now, we will talk about if and then loops, and then we'll come back to functions. Okay. So let me go to my Unix box. All right. So I am here in my home location. That's my present working directory. Right. So let's talk about if conditions. So if you know, so it's very important to understand the syntax. So you know, these spaces are very important. Right. See, whatever the space that I am giving here, must it is like a syntax. As per the syntax, you need to give that space. Okay, and even we have this square brackets, right? When you start the square bracket, give a space again, and before closing the square bracket, give a space again, right? And in between, we'll be writing the conditions. Okay, and now, so what are the conditions that we can check, right? So there are more basically. So it's like many conditions that are there, but the most frequently used one, right? So if you wanted to check the equality, so whether you wanted to check whether two values are equal or not, we'll just do double equal sign. This is for equality. Okay, and if you wanted to check whether two values are equal or not, or if you don't want to check, if you want to check whether both are not equal and you want to do something, we'll use this symbol. This is exclamatory symbol followed by equal sign. Not equal. Okay, and again, so how do we check less than, greater than, or less than or equal, or greater than or equal something? So for that one, so LT. So this is nothing but less than. Okay, if I use -le, less than or equal to. And again, this is GT. It's greater than, and GE must be greater than or equal to. Okay, this is great. So again, so how do I check if the file exists or not? So we can just simply check -f. So this will check if the file exists or not. And if I press T, it will check if the given input is directory or folder, either of this. Both are same, right? Folder and directory both are same. Okay. So, and something else, like if I give -z, it will check if the given string is empty or not. Whatever, if I assign some variable, and it will check if the variable assigned or not. So in programming, so we'll do this way. Okay. So to check variable assignment. Okay. So again, in this one, so we'll have in some cases, right, you wanted to check multiple conditions at the same time. So let's say I have I wanted to check right. So for example, whenever we do something on the system side, I wanted to check with the file size is greater than 0 bytes, and if the file is having, it's a directory, right? So that happens. So I'm giving an example of this. If the file exists and it is greater than 0 bytes, in that case only I wanted to delete the file. That means all non-empty files, and it should be a regular file. I want to delete that. So in this case, we would like to use two conditions. One will be checking if the file exists, that is with -f, then followed by the file name. And we also need to use if the file is greater than 0 bytes or not, the file size. So in this case is the syntax will change, okay, and we'll be using the same way, but we'll be using double square brackets. And within this, the condition one, and then So we'll use this double ampersand that will be present on your keyboard. Number 7. Okay. And then we have condition 2. Guys, give me 1 minute. I'll be just back. Sorry, I am back. So what we are talking, so whenever we have multiple conditions to be used in the if, so the syntax will be like this, we'll be adding 2 square brackets. Okay. And here, right? So this is like and condition. What is and? Basically, this is a logical and. And if I wanted to check or, so we'll be using double pipe symbol. This is or. So basically, what is this? How it works, right? So for this one, we have a truth table for and. So when 2 conditions are true, then only the whole condition will be true. The evaluation will be happen like that. Okay. So let's say one condition is true. I mean, file is existing, but it is an empty file. So in this case, what I'm checking, it is greater than 0 bytes. In this case, condition 2 evaluated to false. This is true and this is false. So overall, the condition will be false because and expects all the conditions to be true. Then only it will be true. But for R, either of the condition is true, so the whole condition will evaluate to true. Okay, that's how this logical or logical and will work. Okay, and again, guys, if you are not able to understand, stop me. I'll answer your questions. Okay, don't just listen and keep silent. Okay, so we discussed how do we write multiple conditions, and then how do we write else and if else conditions as a chain, right? So we can write this way. So if then, and we have statement 1. Okay, and if that's not the condition that we wanted to check, else we use else and statement 2, and then we'll close if. So if or this will always expects the fi, that is the end of the if condition. If you don't mention fi, so it will give us an error. The same time, so if I wanted to check multiple conditions here, I mean the chaining of if else or if else ladder, right? So it will be like elif and followed by condition again, and you can write another condition here like else statement 2 fi. Right? So any questions on this if syntax? Okay, if there are no conditions, no questions, right? We'll start with some demo now. So I'm creating one file now, that is if demo.sh, right? So what I'm doing, I'm adding this. Okay. And now I'm creating two variables, a is equals to 10 and b is equals to 20, right? I'm checking if I'm saying, right, I mean, we discussed yesterday, how do we access variables? Using $sign. $A equals $B. And then if this is the syntax, then echo nothing but we are printing it on the console. Both values are equal. Okay. I'm just closing this. All right. So I'll execute this. So what do you think? It will execute or not? Demo. Permission denied as expected. Why we are getting this permission denied? We discussed this yesterday. Okay. Anyhow, when we create a file, by default, it won't be having execution permissions. Okay. If I execute this way, it will work. See, unexpected operator, something like this. Why? Syntax. Okay, so why this is happening? Now I'm adding one more statement here, that is else. Okay, so what I'm doing now, else both values are not equal, right? So again, what I'm doing is I'm removing these two. Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm using this as command and arguments now. So how this works now? What I'm doing, I'm just checking this variable is equal to this variable or not. And what is the syntax that I'm following? If, and as I told you, so we are having a space here, again a space here. So let's see what will happen. So if we don't give any space, right? Right? See, that's not. Anyhow, so think this Ubuntu based terminals are not very strict about the syntax, but you need to be careful when you are running with a Red Hat or enterprise based Linux systems. It's mandatory to have the spaces. Okay, otherwise it will give us an error while it is executing. So always keep this in mind. Give it a space. Otherwise, it won't work when you're working for a company or in enterprise based terminals. Okay. So again, so why it is giving both values are not equal? Which one we got? Both values are equal. Why we don't give anything? Even now, this what is our code? If demo, right? And it is expecting to command an argument that is $1 and $2, but we are not given anything, but still it's printing both values are equal. What is the reason? The reason is when we didn't assign anything, so they are empty. So it is taking two empty values. That's always true. And now, if I pause this, sorry. See, equal argument expected, both values are not equal. This is a issue with the shell script, right? I was telling you yesterday, if there is any issue with any statement, only that statement will not execute and other statements will keep on executing. You need to be careful, right? So what is this expecting now? This one, so argument expected. So we'll pass one more variable now. Both values are not equal. And if I give 3, both values are equal, right? So again, what we have in this one, we have if and else and followed by the closing of if condition, right? So now if I wanted to check, right, another condition here, what is that? I'll tell you one more condition. So in this case, I'll give you one more parameter now, just to demo the if with multiple conditions. Demo. I'm giving another condition here. So $2 greater than $3. Okay. And we are just simply printing the same again. So let's see how this works. So what is missing here? If demo.sh and 3, see, it is saying square brackets are missing. So I was telling you, right? So when we add extra conditions within the same line, we'll be using double square brackets. This is Fail again. If else, then $1 equal $2, then $2 greater than $3. Why we are getting that? Okay, maybe let's continue. So we'll come back to this multiple conditions again. Let's don't waste this time. Unexpected, expecting then. Okay, so I'll skip to the next topic now. So I'll come back to this one again. All right, so we'll see elif now. So anyhow, this is a right syntax, but I'm not sure why it's not working here. But let's get into the next one. Right. So now what I'll do is so we are working on elif, right? Elif, I'm adding one more condition here. Can right. So $2 greater than $3. This is what we are checking, right? So again, so we have two conditions here, right? So one is if, the other one is if and then else. So in this, what happens here, how the flow will happen. So first you will check the first condition, $1 equal to $2. And then it will come back to, if that is successful, it will execute the first statement within this body. Otherwise, it will come back to the next one. Okay. If this first condition is successful and it execute this one, it will come back directly out of this loop. I mean, if condition. Okay. So it will not check all the conditions. It's like a short circuit evaluation. If one condition is matched, only that condition is executed. Other conditions will be skipped. Not only in here, any other programming language, the if statement will work in that way. If one condition is matched, that's it. The other conditions will not be evaluated. This is called short circuit evaluation. Okay. So again, if I wanted to write one more else condition, so I can do here. So I'm adding else and then echo. We are in else block, right? I'm just printing this. And again, so let's see. So if this works or not, it won't work. Why it won't work? We'll see again. See, it is expecting then. Why? Where? Right? So because whenever we start with again a new condition, we should be adding then. Then this, and I'll be removing this I, right? Both values are equal. Why is this executed? So let's see how it is evaluated, right? So if demo, this one. So what are the conditions that we have? Two conditions. One is $1, $2, nothing but first and second parameters both are equal or not. So both are equal. So it executed this and exited from this if and. Let me do one thing. I'll add one more statement at the end so that it will be clear for us. Okay. So this is echo after if condition. And now you see, right? So now this is executed and it came out of it. Now what I'll do, I'll change these parameters now. 4, 5, 6. We are in the else block and after it came here, right? Why? So what I'm checking, anyhow, so these two are not equal. The first condition will fail. Then what happened? It came to the next elif condition, right? $2 greater than $3. What is it checking? Whether 5 is greater than 6. It's not correct. So again, it came to else condition and it printed this. We are in the else block. Now, if I change this, see, both values are not equal because it is, this condition is true now because second parameter, that is 6 greater than 4, that is true, it printed this. So basically this is how this if conditions will work, okay? But the syntax is very much, complicated. It seems to be, simple, but the space or something like, you need to be careful. Whenever you are executing something, just test it in that shell, whether how it works in, okay? The syntax of that. Depends on the bash or KSH or TCSH, right? I mean, I was telling you yesterday different flavors of shell scripting. So they would be having different syntaxes, but the same concept. Difference in syntax, nothing but so we were just checking. So the two square brackets working or not, but it's not working here. But when we use in our systems, right? So that's how we do it. Otherwise, it will throw us error. Okay, but just check and evaluate. All right. Clear? Any question on if conditions? So we discussed what we discussed so far. So we discussed this, I mean, this part and executed some examples, how this works and all. Any questions? Guys, speak.
No, sir.
Okay. All right. So we will jump on to this. Okay. I'll just quickly wrap up this condition checks whether file exists or not something. I'll create one more. Let's use the same if demo. Right. So I'm checking if a given file exists or not. Okay. So I'm using $1. Okay, the same syntax again. So there will be a then echo file exists. Otherwise, what I'm doing, I'll just create an empty file. I'm closing this, and I will also say $1 is created. So by if demo file exists, how come? So we'll see what other files are there in this. Giving demo2.sh. I should use if demo, then demo2.sh. File exists, demo2 is created. See, this one is created. But again, why like this? Why is this executed whenever we don't give anything, right? We if demo.sh, right? See, we are passing $1 as an input argument, positional argument 1, but even we didn't pass anything that evaluated to file exists. Why? Anyone guess? So that is expected. Again, this depends on the shells. Okay. So because empty is nothing but there is no file or something empty, right? It's not evaluated. By default, -f evaluates to empty as true. Because we need to pass a file. If you give the file, so it will execute perfectly. So when we are writing the scripts, so we should be careful. If no parameters passed, it will be evaluated to success. So that means your condition is evaluated true and the statements will be executing. And again, if I check there are any folders, I'll check the public. So if demo, what I'll do, I'll just replace this with B. Okay, I'm checking whether public folder exists or not, folder one or anything. So I'll just use music. File exists. But Musi is created, but it will create a file. Why? Create. See, it created this Musi. Why? Because we added a statement in the else condition. If the file does not exist, create an empty file, right? That is the reason it's created this Musi. It's not a directory. We created it using touch command. So what we do, what does touch do? So it will create an empty file. That's it. Okay. So this is all about if else and if else blocks. Okay. Elif and everything. So if you have any questions, let me know. So we'll rediscuss those things. Any question? I'll pause for a minute for your questions. No questions? If no questions, we'll continue.
No questions.
Okay. So we will now talk about two loops. That's again loops. So basically for loop and then while loop. So what is the syntax? So simply the syntax is like this. For let's say for I in here we'll be having a list of items. So let's say I'm just placing it as an array. Okay, and we have a do, then done. So this means this is a scope of for loop. Okay, and within this do and done, so this is a body of the loop. We can write statements. Okay, and here again, so we have two controls for loops actually. So it's a break and continue. So what is break and what is continue? We'll discuss with an example. Then you can understand that easily. And yeah, let's get into this one, how it works. Okay. Now, so vi for loop demo.sh. Okay, right. So what I'll do is, right, so even we can write code without this. Okay, not a problem. So I'll try this with one without adding the shebang. Okay, now I'm just writing for I in. So this expects some list of items. So what I'll do, I'll just take some 6, 7, 8. That's enough for now. And 2 echo, just printing $i and done. Okay, sh. I'm executing it now. So anyhow, before that, we'll see this. Very simple. For I in all these numbers, and for each number, I'm printing that number. How this works? So I will start from 1, okay, and it comes to the loop echo number $i. What is I value now? It's 1, and it'll come back to this again. Now 2, then 3, then 4, like that. It will iterate through all the numbers one by one, and whatever the statements that given in the loop, that will be executed on each parameter that is holding actually. Okay. So I'm executing this. Sorry. For loop.sh. Simple, right? So, you know, we can simply create a tables, 2 table, 3 table, right? I mean, like for an example, I'll do that. So before that, I'll create a variable table is equals to 4. Okay. So now I add I 9, 10. What I'll do now? So if I do a multiplication table, so I should multiply, right? So value is equals to, I think we didn't discuss, right? How to do mathematical operations. Oh, I know this would come. right? So 4 into 4 multiplied by $I. So let's see how this works. I'll print this one as well. $I, I'm just using this, is equals to $value. Let's see how this works. And WEQ, it should be small. See, this is a simple table. So basically how this works, very simple program. Table that I defined as 4, okay? And then what I'm doing from 1 to 10, it will go from 1 to 10 one by one. What I'm doing, I'm calculating the value. That is 4 into 1, 4 into 2, 4 into 3, something like that. And then what I'm doing, 4 into $I. So $I will start from 1 to 10. And the value is that we calculated here, that is $I. It is that simple, okay? For loop, the syntax is simple. That's it. This is the only simple way. So, and see what I was telling again. So there are loop control statements like break and continue. We'll check how that works. Second. Right. So okay. So in some cases, right? So I have a condition when if I'm looping through multiple values or multiple files, and when I see some condition, let's say we found a file that we are expecting, I wanted to break this loop or come out of this loop, right? So that way, I'll check now. So for that reason, so I'll be adding a condition now. If, so what condition that I want to check, right? So let's say when I reaches 5, right? So $I is, let's say, less than 6. Anything is fine, right? Less than 6 or less than, greater than, less than or equal to 5. I wanted to escape from after 5, then it would be greater than or equal to 5. Greater than or equal to 6, I'm saying, okay? And then what I'm doing, then break Fi. That's it. What happens here? Let's see. So when I executed this code, and this is the output, right? And what I added in this one, this is controlling this for loop, when to exit from that loop. Okay. So what I'm checking here, when I greater than or equal to 6, right? So until then, whenever this I until 5, this condition will not be true. Am I right? 1 is greater than or equal to 6? No. 2 is greater than or equal to 6? No. 3, 4, 5? No, right? So when it reaches 6, it matched. So it just simply break from this loop, I mean, that means it will come out of the loop directly. So I'll demo it through this way. So echo after for loop. Okay. And for time being, what I'm doing is I'm just commenting this, right, how the comments works. So the interpreter will not execute this comment, right? So see, without this code, when this code is not there, it is looping through all the 10 values that it given, and then it is coming out of the loop. Now check if I remove this, right? How it works. Sorry. Immediately after 5, it's coming out of the loop. So this is how, the break will work. Okay. And again, let's see how the continue will work. So what do you expect about this continue? So as we already seen, break. So when we use break, the control is coming out of the for loop, right? But if I use so continue, that's it. But it's like this. It's like greater than, instead I'll do equal. So this is our code now. I'm executing this. What is the difference that you see here? Can anyone tell me? Come on, guys. It's very simple to see. And you can discover what is missing in the output.
6 is missing.
Yes, 6 is missing. 4 5 are 20, 4 7 are 28. But where is 6? Yeah, that is how we skipped it. So what I'm saying, when this I value reaches 6, okay, then continue. Continue nothing but, so it will skip everything followed by that condition and go back to this next value. That is 7. That is the meaning. So basically when there is a condition that matches with this one and it comes to this continue, it will go back to the for loop. That means whenever continue occurs, it will skip all other following statements and come back to the loop again to reach the next parameter or next parameter. That is the meaning of this continue. I hope you understood, right? What is break and what is continue? This is it. This is similar in any other programming language as well. Same thing, same concept. Any questions? Yeah, so this is what I want to thought of finishing today. So we'll continue with while loop and some other items tomorrow. So that mostly tomorrow we'll close the shell scripting and I'll give you some assignment. And even I shared the softwares, maybe they will share you the link. You can download them, will install, and then you can practice. Okay. Any other questions before we close our class today? Guys, no questions?
No, sir.
Okay, great.